So we're going to continue looking at lesson 9. So lesson 9 is going to be our final lesson for core 1. So we're ending core 1 with lesson 9. So after which we, in our next video, we're going to move to core 2, which is from lesson 10. We're going to start from core 2. So supporting printing devices is a very key topic in A+, because if you're going to write your A+ exam, there are questions that are going to come from printing devices, how to install them, especially troubleshooting, how to troubleshoot a printer when it's faulty, because you're going to have a lot of customers, a lot of staff, users, end users, who's going to call, about that they cannot print, they're having a paper jam, printer queue, so many things are going to happen that they'll be calling you about, especially when the printer is a network printer. So we're going to round up core 1 with this lesson, lesson 9, supporting printing devices. So if you are just tuning in and you for the first time, I will kindly advise you to stick with this channel by subscribing. So our CompTIA A+ is just it's not just a roadmap, it's a guide for you to be able to build your career in IT. So if you're looking at, you want to stay in IT, you want to go to cybersecurity, whatever area you want to be, networking, you want to become a developer, software, website design. I mean, the A+ classes are very important for everyone that want to build a career in technology, because it tells about the computer hardware itself, what are the parts, the computer software, the operating system inside. And then, of course, it takes you to computer networking, talks about the cloud. In our previous time, we talked about the cloud system, talk about the cloud, and on and on and on. So it's very important that you stick with our trainings that we're giving every day. So our channel is what we do here is strictly an IT training academy. So it's called CompTIA A Academy. So where we train people and we mentor people for the next generation of IT professionals, cybersecurity professionals. We mentor them here. So this is just A+ is just what we start with, like we said. So we're still going to do more trainings on networking. So some of the things we're going to tell you here, we're still going to do them practically, right? So watch out for, after the A+, watch out for our practical videos on how to set up your router, how to set up your network, more expansion on IP addresses. IP addresses work, subnetting, how you can be able to set up a wireless network. We're going to talk about, we won't do all this on practical. We're going to send out videos, how you can do a VPN connection, So all those things we'll teach you, so push them out on the video. So watch out for our network for beginners and for pros classes are going to come. So networking for beginners and pros. So it's both for beginning and for professionals. So it's both sides combined together. So watch out for these classes after the CompTIA A+. So after that, we're going to move straight up to cybersecurity classes. So CompTIA security, you're going to having those classes. CompTIA security plus, we're going to having it here. We're going to send training and all like that. Okay. So without wishing much of time, let's start by looking at our objective for lesson 9. So what we're looking at, so we're going to be very fast. It's just about printer. So there are areas where we will not bother to spend much time to talk about, right? So our focus is about the printer, how to set it up, right? How to set up the printer, the software part of it, then the hardware part of the printer, all those laser jets, changing the toner. We're not going to bother about that because that is actually practical. So you have to see those things, and most times, we don't do that. So they have a technical people, technicians that actually do all those things, that change the toners and all those things. So we don't need to bother about that, right? So just move straight to after we look at the printer itself, how to install the printer, network printer, how to set it up. Then we're going to leave this place, replace print devices. Bother about that. Like I said, technical people will do that. So we're going to focus on the first objective, which is deploy printer and multifunction devices. Then, of course, troubleshooting printer devices. That are the 2 areas we're going to focus. So this be part of it. Replace print devices. We don't go bother about that, right? Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so here we go now. Deploy printer and multifunction printer. Sorry, deploy printer and multifunction devices. So when we say multifunction devices, what are we doing? What are we talking about? So we are talking about a device that has several functions. For instance, if we relate to the printer, which is the topic, so we just talk about a printer is something that just prints, right? Then we say multifunction. In other words, the printer doesn't just print. It can do printing, it can do scanning, it can do faxing. You understand? It can also do wireless. So all these are multifunctional printing devices. Okay, so the first thing we talk about is all about the printer. When you buy a printer, all this is about the printer itself. When you buy the printer, you need to look at the cable, you have to unpack it. Of course, you're buying printer, you must know the speed of the printer, right? So how fast is the printer, the paper, what kind of paper they're using, A4 paper, A3, and on. So you have to know whatever you're buying for the purpose. So you have to know that. Then, of course, your cable configuration, you must ensure the cables, everything intact, USB cable, the power cable, everything. Then where are you going to put the printer, the location? You have to be able to consider the location of the printer, right? Then, of course, unboxing of the printer too. So you unbox it, as you take it out from the packet, you very neatly, you don't fold it. So there's a way to lose the carton. So you just technique to lose it. You don't just carry a printer and just you have the technique. If you carry a printer with techniques, if not, you might just fall from your hand, and that might just be physical damage of the printer. So when you carry a printer, you just ensure that you lift it up thoroughly, properly. So you look at the printer, you don't carry it sideways, you carry it properly. So the head face up, right? The head of the printer face up. Then you just pick it. Then so you want to once you want to lose the printer, so you take the carton, you just take something like a sharp object, just unlock, untie the tape on it. That's when you type it, you lose it. So you lose it, you lose it, just strip it off and lose it. Then you can take out the carton, then stylely take out the printer. So you want to take out the printer, you can open the cartons, then turn the printer upside down, then just bring it out, then the printer will be on the floor, not by force. All right, okay. So that is how to the printer has to be able to that's how to be able to unpack a printer and looking at printer setup at first. So okay, so the next thing now, we move to the next slide. So the next slide now is about the printer connectivity. So you've unpacked the printer now. You've unpacked the printer. So the next thing is what to connect the printer. So you have to decide what kind of printer you're using. So if the printer is just a printer with USB port that you can attach to your computer. So for instance now, I buy the printer for myself, right? So what is going to happen is I'm going to install the printer to my computer. Right, so what I need is a USB device. I get a USB port for the printer, then connect the printer USB to the printer, then connect the other USB to my laptop. Then of course ensure there's a power cable, connect the printer to the power cable to the power supply. So I can have power. Then from there you can now go to settings and set up the printer. Right now, there's some printer by default when you install it, they are plug and play. So which means the moment you connect the USB and the power is on the printer, and you connect the USB, that very moment you just connect the USB, automatically what happens is the printer start installing by itself. So you don't need to bother. They are plug and play. These are plug and play printer. That's situation whereby the printer is not plug and play. So that means you have to manually set up the printer. So there you can go to settings, you can go to printer, add printer, then you follow the instruction, click next, then follow the instruction and install the printer. So as well, you can also download the driver for the printer too. So printer, they come with that software. That's if the printer is not plug and play. So how do you get the driver? You can go to the manufacturer website of the printer, all right? So if, for instance, the printer is HP printer, HP DexJet 661. So you go to HP website for printer, type in the printer on the website, and you get there, type it on the download driver, put the name of the driver, download it, and you're going to, so you put the name of the printer, HP DexJet 665, put it there, then it's going to give you options. So you have to decide what printer you download and what OS. So if your OS is Windows 11, if it's Linux and stuff like that, so you're going to decide which OS you're going to which OS you are downloading your printer for. So you're going to download the printer, then after downloading it, then you can start installing the printer. Now, so these things you've done is what set up the printer to make your computer right see the printer so they can be able to work together, right? Now, once you've done that, the other things you can do. Now, the other thing you can do also is to ensure that the printer, right, is on the network. Now, now you can only do this anyways, if the printer the printer is a network printer, right? Now, if I just install my printer and I want people to have access to my printer, so I attach the printer locally to my computer. We call it local printer. I attach it locally to my computer with a USB, right? Then I want people in the network to have access to the printer. I must be able to what? I must do this. Go and what? Register the printer in the DNS, right? So that the printer can be on the network. So when I mean DNS, we talk about DNS in our previous classes, so that should be lesson 5 or so. I can't actually picture, but we talk about DNSs. So DNS is domain name server, right? So that means every device on the network must have a name on the Active Directory on the network, right? So that name, that is what the networks to identify them aside the IP addresses. So that register, just like you now, you are in the school, there must be a register for you to know your name. So the name of that printer, must be on the network. That's how they identify that printer on the network. If the printer is not DNS, you cannot locate it on the network. So there must be DNS. So you have to go and register the printer on the DNS server, right? Okay. So also we're going to have a practical session. Like I said, I was showing that sort of videos on how to set up a DNS server, how to set up a JCP server. We've done all these things in our classes. I'm going to do all this practical, and all of them we've said. How to set up a terminal server, how to set up a virtualization, create virtual machines, all these ones. I'm going to set all these ones. I'm going to do practically how to do. I'm going to send the videos and do practically how to create network cables, configure network cables, straight cable, crossover cable, how to configure, how to make them, and to ensure two computers communicate. We're going to show you all these ones practically. All right, okay. So you just ensure that the printer is if I want a printer to be on the network so that people can have access to it, I must register the printer on DNS domain name system. I have to register there, right? Good. Now, let's see the other part of it here, Ethernet. So the first one is a USB. Now, Ethernet means that network, you want the printer to be on the network. So which is what we normally see in an enterprise environment whereby there are companies are working. So when companies are working, I'm talking about in a company where you are being employed as a staff. So a company where you have staff members who are working, colleagues. So you have your line managers, you have your superior officers, you have your colleagues, and on and on. So in that kind of environment, we call that an enterprise environment. So that environment, you have to be very, very professional, right? So in those places now, because we have so many staff, so the printer usually are normal on the network. So they put the printer on the network, right? So that's why we have Ethernet here. So that means the printer must have a network port at the back of it. There must be a network cable. So you connect network cable to the printer, right? Then you connect it to the cable, to that end of the cable to the network port. So when you do that, the next thing you have to do is to go and put an IP addresses. Because remember, we told you in our previous class that every computer on the network must have an IP address. So the IP address is what they used to recognize the computer on the network. So if the computer doesn't have an IP address, that computer will not be identified on the network, will not be on the network. So it's very so there are two different things. There is IP address and DNS. DNS is the name of the device on the network. It's the name, must have a name, right? Then aside the DNS, there has to be a number, which is IP address. So there has to be a number. So a DNS is just a name that represents that host on the network. So every time must have a name. Aside that name, there must be an IP address. The name together with DNS is that what they used to communicate in network, what device to communicate in network. The name of the computer and the IP address of the computer. So the computer must identify by a name and an IP address. That's why if you go to the internet, you're trying to open a website. That website you're opening has an IP address and it also has a domain name. So what you're typing is the domain name you're typing on the internet. So you're typing, for instance, you're going to Microsoft, you're saying www.microsoft.com. That's what a domain name. That's the name of that company on the internet. Now, aside that, that Microsoft.com has an IP address too that you cannot see. So DNS is the one that will now convert that Microsoft.com to an IP address, because what, on the internet, computers they work through they communicate through IP addresses. The name just identified them. They communicate towards IP addresses. Excellent. So that's it. So the computer must have a name on the network. Give it a name on the network. So that's why I have to reach out on DNS. Then IP addresses. So the IP address means that you have to do it manually, static or dynamically. So again, in our previous classes, we talk about static and dynamic IP address. So the static one is when you configure yourself manually. You go to the computer, you type the address by yourself. That is the static IP addressing. Now, the dynamic IP address is the one that you have a server that is doing that for you. So instead of you manually going to computer and put IP address, you have a server that you've already configured. You set it up as a DHCP server, which is called Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol Server. So is that work of that server is to give out IP addresses to clients. So what is the least IP address to client? We talk about that in our previous classes, right? Again, I'm going to have this dedicated class for all those things. Watch out for our class that has to be our class on. Watch out for our class on networking for beginners and pros. Watch out for that class. So that class, I'm going to explain all these things more again practically. So this A+ class is just to give you, it just take you like as if you already know about those things. So in A+ class, they assume you've already entered networking. So you've moved on from networking, so you are going professional. That is A+. So that's why most of the things we say in A+, we say them as if you already know them. So I'm going to do the practical for you on another video. So watch out all those practicals. If you're following our videos from lesson 1, if you're following us from lesson 1 up to this very moment, you find that there are a lot of practicals that we've not done. So those practicals, they're going to be separate videos, right? So watch out for this practical. So we're going to teach you how to create IP addresses manually and how to create through a DHCP server. We're going to show you DNS server 2. I'm going to show you how to set up a DNS server 2, right? Okay. So all these are so for that that device, that printer, you give the printer an IP address. So you connect the printer to the network and to your the server, right? Now, what I mean the server, it could be that the printer, right? It could be a print server. So a printer means that everybody that prints, the job is located on that server, right? So it could be like this now. You have a printer now, right? So you attach a printer to a computer. So that computer is like the print server, and you share that printer on the network. You share it on the network. So that printer becomes a print server. So everybody that prints, they print towards that server. So all the print jobs, they go to that place. So that's a print server. So all those computers don't have a name. That printer must have a name of that server, must have an IP addresses. Then the other one is the network printer, which should be explained. So that network printer just connects to the network. The printer has a network port, which is called Ethernet port. So that's the Ethernet port. You connect to the Internet port, which is at the back of them. You connect to your network appliance, your switch or whatever, your wall socket, where you have your ports, put it there, the network port there, put it there on your wall. So that is just that, right? Okay, then we are good to go. So now take a look at this now. So we also have another way of connecting printer wireless. So we have another way of connecting printer, which is the wireless way of connecting printer. Now the wireless way of connecting printer is a way that you don't need to do wires. Like we're talking about wire now, connect wire, you don't need to bother about wire. What you have to do is to set up a wireless network. The same way you set up a wireless network. So just again, I said it, watch out for our practical session, which is networking essentials, networking for beginners and pros. So all these ones, I'm going to set up a router, how to set up a router in a wireless network, we'll teach you all these ones, SID, everything, access point, we're going to try to do that. So now in this situation, if you want to set a wireless printer, right? So just on the printer has an IP addresses manually, right? Because the IP address is what identify the printer on the network. So the printer will have an IP address. Now, SID is the name, we call it service set identifier, is the name of the network. If the network is CompTIA VLAN, so you have a network that is wireless, right? So you want this printer to be part of that network. So you look at the printer name, look at the network name, CompTIA IDS. What's channel? Channel is just telling about the frequency. What frequency is the network? So if the frequency, the channel of that frequency is channel 1, which means your printer has to be on channel 1, right? Now this hardware address here is telling about the hardware address of what this printer. We call it MAC address, physical address printer. So every device on the network, they have a MAC address. So we also explained that in our previous classes. They have MAC addresses. Okay, so that's fine. So let's continue now. Let's continue. So okay. So now this is now. So the printer has a the printer has a network address now. So this is a wireless address. Put the name. It's the same way. Wireless is the same way. You just bring your phone and try to attach a net, join in a wireless network. The same way. It's not difficult, right? So if you want to join in wireless network, what you have to do on your phone, you get your device, right? So go there, go to your wireless, then tap it. You see the network name. Click on it. What happens? Ask for a password. The same thing you want to do here. So ask for a password. When you see the SID, you click on the SID. You put the password. As soon as you join the network, automatically you don't need to bother with that. The IP address will be given to what the computer, because why? That network already has what it has a dynamic. It's all like a DHCP server that is configured, ready to work. Okay, so I'm sorry about that. Okay, so let's continue, right? Okay, so the next thing is 1 second. Let me just check something in my video. Let me just check something. I just have to do a few minutes. Okay, here we go. Just a few minutes. I just want to correct something. My display is not very bright. I want to make my display as bright as possible. Oh, 1 second. Just a few minutes. 1 second, please. Oh, say okay. So a few minutes. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let's continue. So here we now. Good. So this is where we are. So that's how to join the printer to a wireless network, right? Now there's also called Wi-Fi direct connection from client to print devices. So when we say a Wi-Fi direct connection, right? So we are saying that you have a phone, right, and you want to print to your wireless network, to your printer, right? Now, a Wi-Fi direct connection means that you don't need a router, you don't need an access point. A wireless, you don't need that, or you just don't need internet to connect to that device. You don't need it. So, because normally, when you are joining the network, like you see the first one, you have to join the SID, the name of the network, before you can join that network. But with Wi-Fi direct connection, you don't need to go through this process of having to join the network. You don't need to do that. So you don't need that wireless network, or you don't need all these ones. So a wireless direct network is a network whereby a device can join another device wirelessly without using what? A network router, or without needing internet access. So you can just join directly. So how do you do that? So you can do that simply by going to the printer itself. So the printer has, just like you have, this is dashboard, has a dashboard. Go to the printer dashboard, go to the wireless settings, then turn on wireless direct. Once you turn it on, it just be on. So the next thing on your device, on your phone, you can go to your phone and go to wireless settings. Then you see, when you go to wireless, you see that printer will appear, right? That you see the Wi-Fi direct will appear. Click on it, automatically you join that print. So when you join that printer, which means you can have print direct to that printer. So that's called Wi-Fi direct connections. So it's a network, is a connection without you needing an internet access, and also without needing a network, to connect to, without going to the SSID, So that is just a Wi-Fi. So just enable the both device to have the Wi-Fi direct. So you enable both of them, then you can be able to join together, then you can print. So that is Wi-Fi direct. Okay. So the next thing we're going to look at now is the printer setup. So, which is the software part of the printer. So now you set up a printer, you go to the printer properties. Now meanwhile, what we see here now, let's take a look. What we see in this place here now, right? This is the printer driver. You see, printer driver selection. So, like I explained to you, when you install a printer manually, right, you have to pass this process. So when you get the printer, the first thing you need to do, you set up the printers. If the printer is plug and play. So plug and play means that you set up the printer, you connect your cable to the printer, automatically the software starts installing. Now let's show you about the printer is not plug and play, right? So you have to install it manually. So you go to your printer settings, then go to add printer, you go to this place, then you manually select the printer. In this case, the printer to install is HP LaserJet. So you click on it, then say next. So once the printer is installed successfully, right, then you can now be able to go to the printer property. So look at it, the property of the printer. So this place is where we set up color management, like we have the color, the font type of the printer, how you want the printer to print. This is where you just set it up. There's so many things that happen here. So how do you access this place? Now, the moment the printer is installed, right, all you have to do is to go to the printer, right click on the printer. So you can do this from control panel. Go to control panel, then go to printer, type printer, then you see printer, you see all the printer will appear, then you see the HP LaserJet 200 printer there. You see it there. Right click on it, click properties, you're going to take to this place. So many things we can talk about in this place, like security, sharing port, so many things we can talk about in this place. So many things we can explain here. Right? So, but meanwhile, this is how you'll be able to manage your printer. Right? So here he's talking about the security, right? So security is like who you like maintaining access. Who should have access to the printer? Who you want to print the printer? Is everybody? So you're going to decide who you want to print, who will have access to the printer. Sharing is you want the printer to be available on network, you have to share it on your network. You understand? Hey, that is sharing. Then ports. So what you do, I think what you should do, you could just do a temporary, if you just do it, just what I like to do, just do something like a simulation, right? So install a virtual printer. So how do you do that? Go to settings, go to add printer, just install a virtual printer. If you install it, go to the properties and you see all these things there. Just play with them, explore, go through all of them. The color management is about the printer itself, the color of the printer. Like we hear that, what kind of color, crayon, yellow, black, all these colors. That is what you see in this list. So how you want to manage the printer, right? Okay. So that is just, the printer properties. So again, still on print properties here. So now that time so we have to do what call the update the driver, change the port, sharing and permission, which we explained earlier, right? Update driver means if for instance now you install the printer and the printer is not working, right? So just going to update the driver, it might be a driver problem. So the driver is the software that runs on the world, they had to make the hardware to work. So the times you might download the wrong driver. When you download the wrong driver, right, you might download a driver that is not compatible with that hardware. So that means that hardware will not work. So the solution is to go and update that driver. It's possible that you can have a driver too that is genuine, right? But after a while, the owners of this product, they'll be able to change some things. They've updated that driver. And you're still using the old driver. So that means so long that driver you're using is working on that printer is not going to work. Also, what is in latest driver that is available. So what you have to do, you have to update it. Now, because why these drivers they work together with our OS. if you're using Windows 11, for instance, right, and they've released a new update on that printer, maybe you're using LaserJet 200, right? So, and meanwhile, the LaserJet owners, they've released a new driver, which had to do with Windows 11. So, if you don't update your driver, right, for that printer, that LaserJet 200, you don't update it, what happens is that Windows will not be able to work with it anymore. So the only way you can do that is to go and update. So at times we have issues like that, we have to troubleshoot, find out where the problem is coming from. Do I need to update the driver? So to update driver is easy. Just go to properties. Go to the properties of the printer. Then go to the properties of the printer. What do? You check the printer, check updates, just like we have here. Take a look at, let's go to a previous slide. So in our previous slide, we have something like this now, right? Okay. So now we might not get it here. This is just Windows updates. This is all we're talking about, right? We might not get it here, but I can just show you. Okay, let me just typically show you what we are seeing. Let me just show you what we are seeing so that we can. Let me just go to. Okay, so let me go to Device Manager. Okay, say this Device Manager now, right? Excellent. So I just want to show you a typical example of how to update driver, right? Assuming, let's see if we have a printer here. Assuming we have a printer here. Okay, fine. We have something printed here. Okay, now good. So this is a typical example now, right? These are virtual printer. They're not physical printer, right? So just go there now. Right click on it. Say update driver. So these are to update the driver of any hardware, both the printer, device manager, or you can come to properties too. Go to properties and you can come here, see settings here, there, here. In this place anyway. Because the printer is a virtual printer, you're not going to get to update driver here. Meanwhile, you still update driver here because the virtual printer, right? It's not a physical printer, right? So, physical printer is that we actually install it physically attached to the system. These are not printers that come; these are just virtual ones. They're just there, not like bought it. They're just inside the printer, right? So we call them virtual printer. Okay, so this had to update your driver for hardware, had to update it and stuff like that. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so let's continue, right? So don't worry, when we get to code 2, so we'll tell you about more about all these drivers, device manager, how to manage devices, how to install, we'll tell you more about them, right? Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so those are it. Then of course, so finally is your printing preferences. So when the printer is installed, the paper size, the tray of the print, the tray is the feed that you slot in the papers. We call them tray. The size, you have to decide what size paper, the type of paper you are using. Orientation is what orientation, duplexing, like the finish, like is it a book fold paper you are doing. The orientation is going to be landscape or portraits, all those ones. So you can also go to, if you go to print, for instance, you can see all these print preferences. How do you get that? You can get this easily from that same printer properties, right? So you can get it easily. You can go to, print. If I'm going to show you something now, let's take for instance, I'm trying to access a document. I'm trying to print here. I can come here and I can say print now. So here we go. I can say print. See, then all these places, say you can be able to do all these things here. So this is printer, print to PDF, properties. Say I see for this is here I can determine portrait and landscape orientation. So here this portrait, then of course I can go to advanced, and see what paper is it 8:4. So I can go on and choose what size of paper am I doing, right? Okay. So that is for that. Okay. So typically this is some of the. Now, because this is a virtual printer, some features will not be here. So maybe later, if you get to be with a printer, right, that is not working. Okay, let me say because a printer that is working, you will just open it, don't change anything, open it, go to the properties, and just have a view of it. Explore it without you applying anything. Just take a view, have a view of everything, so you can see most of all this. So you see. This printer is an idle printer. Why? Because what? It's not a physical printer. It's virtual. That's why you see idle. So that's why most of the things I want to show you, we couldn't get them here, right? But don't worry. Like I said, with time, as you work practically in the field, he has been to work and have experience. You're going to see all these things. You're going to be seeing them. You're not going to know everything just for one day. So the more you work, the more you get experience, the more you see all these things. Okay. So let's go back to our class. Okay, so that's that. So printer sharing, I explained earlier for you. So you share the printer on the network. I explained earlier. The print server, I told you about the print server. You know, the printer is attached to the server. You know, so when it's attached to the server, then you can share the printer on the network, right? Good. Then we also talk about the DNS. So let the print, if you share printer on the network on the print server, that print server will be on the DNS server. So the printer server is one that we able to. That computer now acts as a server. So everybody print to that computer, right? So as soon as they print to that computer, the system manages them, manage all the printer that comes in. So there's what called print queue. So each time you send it, each time somebody sends a print job, it goes to it's like a queue, it stays in a queue, right? Okay. So you share the printer when you share the printer on the network, which is you can actually have access to it and print to the printer as well. All right. So if you have any question, I would advise you send me an email, right? Or you can put it on the comment section. So my email address is techaon80@gmail.com. So that's the email. So send me an email if you have a question. I will have time to explain more and more to you, right? Okay. So that's that. So the print server, I've already explained that to you. The printer share, the print share. You have a print server. If you don't share it on the network, nobody going to have access to it. So you can have a print server. A print server means that you have a system dedicated to attend to print jobs. That's what a print server is. It works attend to print job. So you just bring a computer and you load it with good memory. You just attach the printer to it and you share the printer on the network. When you share the printer on the network, it means people can have access to the printer. So that printer becomes a print server. So that's what that means, right? So printer security, so it's just a way of you trying to ensure that every people can identify their jobs. Because you have in a company, you don't want anybody to just walk up to where the printer server is and just take a job. So you want people to identify themselves. Maybe the smart card, whatever contact led, you just come, they just put their addition on the print server, and automatically that will call badge here, print secure print and print badge. So automatically the job has been printed. Print authentication is the same way of you saying, okay, before users can print to the network, they have to have your users and password to authenticate, then you cannot print, right? Audit log, like you want to keep a track of all what is happening. So you have track of all what is happening. Like you can audit all the printing that is going on. You can go back, go to the printer, the issue, and see who have printed, how they print, if they print as a administrator, they print on the computer, where they print from, which computer it is to print, you can do all those things, check all those things through the centralized login, right? So most especially you can do that on the print server. Where you can, if the printer is attached to the server, you can do that and go to that system. Where it's the print server, go to the system, then go to the log, system log, then you can see audit log rather. Then you can see all the printing jobs that who has printed. How many copies, even when there's an issue with the printer, you can use the log to trace it. Okay, so scanner and on and on. So scanner is just your nowhere. Scanner configuration the same way. This is a multifunctional printer. See, this is a multifunctional printer. So why? Because it can print, it can scan, it can do faxing. So these are called multifunctional printers. So you do everything together. So when you get a printer, if you know about OCR, it means optical character recognition. So now there are times that you work with PDF. When you work with PDF at times, so that those PDF characters, they're not traceable. You cannot find words with PDF, with all this PDF, because they're not editable. With an optical character recognition, those PDF that you scan you can be able to trace the word on them. With an optical, you can trace all those words of those PDF. If, for instance, now the PDF is like 50 pages, so you can go to search on that document. Go to search. Yeah, don't type if you want to look for some sentence. Just type it there. Optical character recognition will recognize that PDF and bring out those words for you, so it becomes searchable. All right. Okay. So that is all. I'm going to move straight. Like I said, 9B is all about no bond about these all these ones. Like I said, the replacing of tuners and on. All these ones, you don't need to bother about them. All these things, don't need to bother about them. You see, there's a there's normally technician that do all those things, so you don't need to bother so much about those ones, right? If you want to know about them, then that's fine. It's good. So these are for ink. How to change ink cartridges like that. So for cartridges, just open the printer. The printer has the ink. See, they have numbers. If, for instance, now this one, you always see the indicator as finished because as you are printing, the printer always show as the software that managing them. So the software on the printer that will tell you this yellow is finished. So if you want to buy the yellow, just bring it out. Talk to the supplier. The yellow is finished. You just bring it for you. As I bring it for you, you open the printer. You open the printer cartridge the way it is now. The printer. As you open the printer, you see the yellow. You just press it and take it out. Right? Then put the new one. So, okay. Tell me that. Let's go to finally troubleshooting of printers. How do you troubleshoot printer issues? So how do you troubleshoot printer issues? Okay, so this is very important for your exam because this is what you'll be seeing most in the exam, in your A+ exam. Okay, so printer connectivity issue. So now, the likely problem with printer connectivity issue. So apparently, you set up the printer and the printer cannot connect, your computer cannot connect with the printer. So what I like the problem? So you can't detect printer to install it or printer reported offline by OS. So you're trying to install the printer and it cannot install, can't detect the printer to install it. After you install the printer and the printer is not showing offline, by the OS is showing offline. There's a lot of times you go to the settings, you see the printer is offline. Even when you're trying to print, you see offline. Right? What are the likely problem? Now, first, you say verify power and status by print device control panel. So you look at verify the power, right? So you can verify the power by looking at the physically if the printer is connected online, right? And check the status. So you can go to control panel too and see. If you go to control panel, you check on the status of the printer. You will know if it's on or offline. You will see it's offline. That's the one way. If it's offline, then apparently the printer is not connected. That's what it means. So again, you go back to the power and check the power and everything. See that the printer is connected. Check the cables. The cables are connected to the computer. If it's a printer, check the cable. Check everything that do it. Every connection issue that do it. I check them. Then check removable components, cartridges, and service panels. So it's possible that your cartridges, your tuners, all those things. So at times you might have connectivity issue if they're not there. I'll show you offline. So check your cartridges and all the same. Print the test page. Now, how do you print the test page? Now, a test page means that you want to verify the printer is working, right? A test page, you want to know if this printer is actually connecting. So you try to do a test page because you might see the printer connected at times and it's not printing. So one way to know that the printer is actually working to go to print the test page. So you can open a document. Go to print and say, okay, now the best to do that is not to open the document. Go to control panel, right? Go to control panel. When you go to control panel like this, let me show you what I'm saying. So let's say control panel now. So I'm going to say control panel, right? So this is control panel right now, right? So I'm going to control panel now. So I'm going to go to I'm going to look for hardware and sound. That was the printer here. View device and printer. Open here, right? So take a look now. Well, this is not what I want because there's no printer here, but it's taking me to this place. So let's see. It's not what I want because there's no printer here, right? But if, for instance, now we have something like this now, right? We're going to see print a test page. See? You put the test page. So you're going to try to print. What am I printing? I'm just going to say print what I want to print, select document and say okay, So that is how to do print test page of a printer. So you just do a print a test page and if it prints, then which means your printer is okay. If it doesn't print, which means your printer is actually not connected. So you have to check your physical connection again. All those are some of the ways you can know the printer. Whatever a cycle power on print device or consider factory reset. Of course, a lot of time you have to reset the printer again, factory reset. If you've done everything and you see the cable is connected, everything is fine, you can do a factory reset. All right? So factory reset means that you just uninstall the printer, unplug it, and probably you install everything again from the beginning. So I told you about the cables, right? You spread the cables, connectors, test different connection cable. At times, if it might be the USB cable you are using that's causing connectivity, so you have to try another USB cable, try another power supply. It's possible that the power cable you are using to connect to the system is not working very well, so you might try another power cable, right? So these are connectivity issues of a printer, right? Paper jam. So paper jam means that you are printing, and you are seeing the paper is not connected, just stay inside the printer. They call it paper jam. So the paper just stay in the tray. It's not print, just we call it the paper jam. So possible to clear them. So now this place identify location. Now this is if the printer is a network printer and you are printing and it's not printing, so it's a paper jam, or you might sit on the dashboard like you see jam in. So this is a network printer, a server, so you don't know where the person is printing. So you have to identify who that person that is printing. You understand? You have to identify that person, right? Then of course, paper not feeding or multiple misfed. So paper not, is the feeding of the paper. Where they feed the paper, it's not working well. It's not so. Or the load, the paper is being overloaded with so many. So if multiple pages that have been there, it's going to cause this kind of issue too. Improper paper size, which is what you see here. Improper paper size, pickup and separation parts. All this, the pickup, who is picking it? The printer has printed. It's just done with tree. Nobody's picking them up, right? So you can also have issues that do with the cartridges too. So if the cartridges are not working, maybe a cartridge is bad or so, they can also cause print jam. Maybe partial contact is not connecting. All those ones can cause paper jam, right? So these are the print issues that we talk about. Printing quality. Well, all these ones, printing quality of the printer, you need to be able to check your toner, your cartridges. All these are part of print quality. Check your toner. If the printer is not printing well, maybe the color is not coming out very well. All these are part of issues. It might be the toner, the cartridge. You have to go and look at replacements. If the color is printing, is fading. If the color is fading, all these are cartridge and toner issues. See, you need to look at all these things. So you must be able to get the quality. If you're not getting quality, what you are printing is not coming out sharp. So two possible things you have to check is what? The toner and the cartridges. Those are two possible things you check. Right? That will cause that. Okay, so any other thing I want to talk about now? So on paper jam, we've installed that paper jam. We'll talk about the paper jam. So okay, so this one is very important. Let's look at this, please. Now, if you hear about print queue, like we'll try to explain now. If you hear about the print queue, right? So if you take a look now, this is a print queue, right? Now, if you take a look, these are jobs on this printer. See, this printer is called HP Laser the 200 color. It's a multifunctional printer. Now, in this place, now there are two jobs that are there, right? Look at the pages, right? And look at the owner. These are the owner of the job, James and James. So James is owner of the job, two job. So what happened is that when users are printing to the network, right? So each time they send a job to the print. So what happens is that the first job that goes in, the printer tends to it first. So when the printer is printing and so many users are sending in print jobs, it's possible that all the jobs will just be in the queue. So the printer has memory too, like a computer. If the jobs are too much coming in, if the memory is if the computer is so busy because the server is so busy, so much jobs are coming, so many jobs are coming. So there's tendency that those jobs have to pile up in the queue, printer queue. And when they pile up like that, at the point the printer can no longer print all those work because of the loads is coming, like a traffic. It can no longer print all the job. So these are common issues with printer. So you are sending the job to the printer, you are sending. You see, not the printer is on, but still, printer is not working, it's not printing, printer cannot print job. So what you do, you can go towards that print server. So if the printer is attached to a print server, go to that print server, then go to the right click on the printer, all right? When you click on the printer, go to right click on it, then right click and open it or double click the printer. So you go to the settings of the printer, you right click on it, double click it to open it. Then if you open it, you're going to see something like this. Alright, see? So we call this a print queue. So these are where you see the job. So here now what you have to do in this place now, here they say restart it. So you can restart the job for this, you can restart this work, or you can cancel. So when you need to restart, if you can restart a job if you feel that maybe the work has taken the print okay, now when you restart it when you know that, okay, fine, I don't want to cancel this job. All right, so canceling means that you have to tell the user to resend again. So you want to restart it. So you first restart it and see. So when you click on restart, the printer is going to try to reload and try to print again. If after doing that and still the printer cannot print, so you can tell James and call you and cancel the job and tell James to resend again. Resend means reprint again. So you just James afterwards click on print again. You understand here? So now if the old printer is having issues like too many documents on the printer queue, all right, too many documents here on the printer queue, what you can cancel all the documents on the printer, cancel all, then ask all the users to resend again. So that's the way to cure printer queue problem. All right. Now garble print means that, let me show you garble print what it means. Let me show you what it means so that I can explain it very well. So if you print something like this and you have, let's go to Google. So where are we in Google now? So let's see what Google print. Let's see garble print. Good. So this is a garble print now. So this is if you print something like this, if you print anytime you print and you get something like this, what are the problem? Most of the times, you see, you get issues like this kind of issues, all these kind of, they call it garble print. See, all these are garble print. If you print and you get something like this, right, you don't need to bother so much, right? So it might be a driver problem, right? So the driver might just be bad. The fonts might be a font problem. Maybe the font are using available. So if for example, are using a markup, the point is you're using area font. And area font is not under your software you're using. It's not that printer. You're going to get a garble print. So it can be a driver issue, right? It can be your print device too that is faulty. So these are a couple of this kind of, when you get this kind of problem, these are the issues that that might be causing. So first of all, verify your driver, right? How do you verify your driver? I showed you earlier. You go and install, you go to update driver. You do that, then the next thing check your print device. Cycle power, check the power of your print device. If everything is okay, then of course the next thing is check for the font, if the font is available. If that font is available, then it's not available, then that's why you're getting. So those are the likely problem of this kind of garble print, right? Okay. So finally, we've come to the end of lesson. We've come to the end of lesson 9, which is core 1. I've come to the end of core 1. So thank you for listening. Please, like I said, kindly subscribe to our channel. I'll see you in core 2 in our next video. Thank you. Bye.